Hi folks, now we're going into our third and final video here, continuing on with bond basics, and now we're still assuming that the bond date and the issue date are different. The bond is dated January 1st, the issue date is June the 1st, and in this particular case, we have a year end of September 30th, which is before the actual date that the interest is being paid. So don't forget, you issued the bond on June the 1st, it was dated January 1st, and what you need to do now is, because you've issued the bond on June 1st and you've got a September 30th year end, what you need to do now is accrue interest from the issue date to the year end so that your statements, your income statement and your balance sheet are correct. So all we did is we went back to the original table. You can keep going back to this thing. This is the amount of interest expense for the full 12 months from January to December, 15,681. So we can actually use that and allocate it only over 4 months to book interest expense at September 30th or year end of 5227. The discount, we know that we amortized was 681 for the year, but again, we only want it from June to September. So we want 4 months of that. And again, we have to accrue the amount of the liability that we're going to have to pay out on December the 31st to our investors. So the issuer, a company, is going to have to credit interest payable for how much? Well, they will pay out $15,000, but they only want to accrue from June the 1st to September 30th, which is 4 months of it. So they're going to accrue $5,000. So now if we were to prepare a balance sheet at our year end, September 30th, we're going to have the bond payable at $200,000, but our unamortized discount would not be $33.12 or whatever we had it at the other, last time we did this question. Where was it before? I think we had $33.12 here, yeah. It's going to be different. Here at September 30th, it's going to be $34.82. How come? Well, don't forget, if we go back to our little table, we had $37.09 unamortized at bond issue date, right? Of that $37.09, how much would we have amortized if we were here at September 30th, 05? If we had something in there, right? Because that's our year end, how much would we have amortized from June 1 to September 30th of that 681? Right? We amortized $284 from January to June. How much would we amortize from June to September? So if we now go back to the problem, it says we would amortize $227, which we calculated here for the 4-month period. So since you had here, you had $37.09 at issue date, you deduct that $227 that you calculated right here, right? At September 30th, and you're going to get $34.82. So you're going to take the amount of the unamortized discount at June the 1st and deduct what you amortized from June the 1st to September 30th, which was $227. So we put that here, and we get $34.82. So now our bond liability at September 30th on the balance sheet is $196,518. So we'd only show $52.27 for interest expense for the year because the bonds in this case were issued June 1st, which was the same in the second video, but the year end is September 30th. So for that piece, for those 4 months, we're only going to show interest expense to the statement date, which is $52.27. That's what we booked here. Now, we want to pay the interest on December 31st. So don't forget, you had an interest accrual here of $5,000, okay, at September 30th. But don't forget, you also had an interest accrual, a credit to interest payable, when you issued the bonds on June 1st. Why? Because remember, these guys on December 31st of this year, they're going to get a full $15,000 in interest, even though they've only been there for 7 months. But they prepaid $62.50, right, at the issue date. So if you don't remember what we did there, let's go back. Remember, at the issue date, June the 1st, when we made the entry, we credited interest payable for $62.50. That's the 5 months that the investor prepaid, because at December 31st, they're getting 12 months. So the 5 months they prepaid, which was part of the cash that they gave, plus the $5,000 you accrued at the year end, right? $5,000 means that your interest liability is going down $11,250 because you're paying out a full $15,000. Your interest expense, again, we know from earlier in the question that the full amount of interest expense for 12 months in 05 would have been $15,681. We just want to set it up or expense 3 months of it. That would be October, November, and December, right? So 3 months is $39.20. Your discount is going to be, well, the discount for the year would have been $681, right? We had that over here. $681 for the year, but we only want the last 3 months, October, November, December, because we already did our accrual to amortize discount here for the 4 months of the 7 that the bond has been outstanding, right? Now we want to get the last 3 of those 7 months, so it's $170. So this is our entry on December 31st, 2005 to make the interest payment. Now, the last part of the question is, if we're now in the next year, September 30th, 2006, let's make the entry on this date, assuming that's still the year end, and then pay the interest on December the 31st. So now we need to look to the next period within which the September 30th, 2006 year end falls. So if we now go back here, this is the year within which your September 30th year end falls, because your next year begins January 1st, 06, but your year end ends in here, September 30th. So in this 1 year in here is when your year end falls. So now the interest for the entire 06 is $15,735, right? The entire amount of amortized discount is $735, and the amount of unamortized discount is what you had to open 06 less what you would have amortized, right? So now let's go back to the problem, and what we need to do is we need to accrue interest. Well, we just said the full amount of interest expense that we would book for the entire year, okay, would have been $15,735, which is $196,688 times your yield, and that will give us $15,735, right? So if that's the amount of interest expense for the year, we only want it in our question from January to September. So we only want it here for 9 months, January to September. So that's going to be $11,801. We know the difference between what we pay out in interest or what we accrue in interest here and the amount of interest we've expensed for the entire year would be the amount of discount for the entire year. But we're only going to amortize that discount for 9 months of the year. Why? Because the year started January 1st, the next period, and now we have a year end September 30th. So that's 9 months, right? So we're going to amortize the discount for $551 and then record our interest payable, which is that's what it is for 12 months, but we only want to set it up for 9. We set up the accrual at September 30th, 2006. So now when we go to pay the interest at December 31st, we need to clear out this accrual in its entirety, which is $11,250. We need to expense in interest the other 3 months of this, which is $39.34. We need to amortize the last 3 months of this $735 discount because this was for the entire year. Again, you can go back and check your table. That's the amount of amortized discount for the entire year 06, but we only want it for the shorter period, which is the last 3 months for October, November, December. So that's $184. And again, at the end of December, we pay these guys out $15,000. So that concludes our review of bonds, as well as some of the intricacies involved when we have intervening year ends between interest payment dates and issue dates different than bond dates. I hope you found the video helpful.